everyone. This is Balls to the Wall, episode number 28. I'm Kenny Matthews, my co-partner in crime here, Billy Martin Jr. How are you doing this afternoon, buddy?
Are you kidding me? We're one of my favorite times of the year. Tournaments going on. Hockey, basketball, baseball's getting ready to start. Life's good, man.
Yes, it is. It is one of those wonderful times. I'm used to around April 1st, though, it being the opening day of baseball, but it's just going to be a tad bit later this year, starting on the 7th. But we are going to have an opening day. So that's the big thing that we're going to take from that. As you got to watch a little baseball last week out there in Arizona and got to have some fun with some peanuts and popcorn and a little great game action. And you said, from what we said off camera here, it was relatively normal, which is the big thing for me.
Oh, it was. Like I told you earlier, I found myself looking around because I went to two spring games that the Cubs were at, one at their park and one in Surprise. And of course, the Cubs have such a huge following that their games were always packed, but that added some ambiance for me. Just being in a packed baseball stadium, I got to admit it was good, but there's still that little bit of COVID phobia. Every time somebody coughs or something, you find yourself going, "Oh gosh, oh yeah, where's my temporary mask?" And
well, it seems you got away from Arizona just in time, because over the weekend they were having temperatures in the hundreds at some of those spring training games last week, and I was going, whoa, 100 in late May is probably not what they were really wanting. A veteran, going, are we really kidding me? I've got to play this game at 12 o'clock where it's bright and sunny too.
You know what, though, I will say about the heat there, because it's so dry, shade really matters.
Yeah.
So if you can find some shade, even when it's 100 plus, the shade feels so much cooler there, something we don't get here.
Yeah, and like when the sun goes down, it cools off so much quicker than it does here too. It could be 92 degrees in Phoenix, but you'll sit on a patio and have a cold one and eat your dinner and be comfortable. In Dallas, it's 11 o'clock and it's 94 degrees, and steam and heat, humidity. It's a whole new ball game. Definitely so. Well, we do appreciate you guys listening to us on this episode number 28. We appreciate if you would subscribe to us on Rumble and also on all of our various, YouTube. All you have to do is click on that little subscription there, man, and put that there. It'll let you know when the next episode is going to come out. Got some feedback from a couple of my buddies out in Sacramento over the weekend, and I appreciate you, Larry and Bob Stewart, hollering at me about my LeBron James rant from a couple weeks back about him not being a top 5 player. But we like that. We really appreciate if you do if you disagree with us, man, feel free to tell us that. Think we're idiots? Tell us. We don't care about that. We just want to try to bring out some content for you guys, some opinions, and try to keep politics as much as we can out of this loop here. But it would help us out if you would subscribe to us. Tell your friend, listen to us when you walk your dog, go to the gym, or in the car. We generally try to do it for about 45 minutes to an hour each week. So, my man Billy, we've been doing this from the beginning. I did want to say this before we go on. I want to thank Danny Vaughn. Last week, he was terrific with the Negro League and the Jackie Robinson information. I got some feedback from a lot of people on that. They really loved the wealth of knowledge that Danny had on that. So he was our first inaugural guest on the Balls of the Wall. So, it's kind of nice that he hit a home run out of the park. It's going to set that bar really high for the next guest to come on here, because he was really, really good. And also, I wanted to say that next week we may try to get, if you remember the Balls of the Wall, we started off with Nick Harris being the moderator for us. And he went on to get really busy with his 247 UT site and recruiting site. Well, he got a new job now with Rivals, the big company Rivals that does all the recruiting side on basketball, football, and the whole shooting match. He's going to now do a regional deal. So I just kind of want to pick his brain a little bit for a few minutes and congratulate him on that. Here's a guy that worked extremely hard since he was 10, 11 years old. I mean, he hadn't even graduated college yet, and he's got a lot of things starting to really boom for him. And you guys will be able to say, hey, we saw this guy when he was 19 years old, you know, on Balls of the Wall, when he's in front of an ESPN mic in about 3 or 4 years, because he's really that talented and really that good. So I hope to have him on next week for Balls of the Wall. And Billy, let's talk about this tournament. I think that you and I, we got lucky a couple of weeks ago before the tournament actually started. We both said that there clearly wasn't a number one team we thought in the country going into this tournament. It kind of played out that way. Yes, I do know Duke is a number 2 seed. I do know that Kansas and Villanova were highly ranked, but we almost got to a point. It was going to be the first time that we did not have a number 1 seed in the Final Four, and Kansas did do, with the win the other night, got us off of that. But it didn't play to the chalk that a lot of us thought that it was going to do. But it led to some really exciting basketball games, Billy, where I thought this year, more than maybe any other, it was just exciting from the opening game and up until that St. Peter's game on Sunday night, which kind of got Cinderella definitely lost the slipper a little last Sunday night. But still, to have a 15th seed get to a regional final is just unreal at that point. Elite 8 game, I mean, that's unreal. But Billy, from your standpoint, you and I both said we enjoy this time of year. You got your money's worth, man, the last couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely. On our predictions, I mean, I literally only have half of one of my teams in the Final Four because I couldn't pick against my Texas Tech Red Raiders, so I put Tech/Duke down there, and so I only got 0.5 right of my Final Four, and after watching these games, I'm not even a bit ashamed. I'm like, you know what? This has been great. This has been exciting to watch. And Coach K needs to be there. I mean, with his career, if I said Duke, North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
When you roll back the clock to the 80s,
yes,
and start thinking about that, as opposed to the coach whose every game could be his last,
right?
Going up against a coach going for his first national championship.
Yeah. Not only that's the first time Duke and North Carolina has ever met in the Final Four, which is to me is a staggering.
How could that happen?
Yeah, considering I think North Carolina has the lead of 23 Final Four appearances now, and Duke, obviously with their tradition out since Coach K's been there, it's surprising that they never have met, when it's the Final Four. That's really ironic there. Hubert Davis, let's think about this though. Let's, roll back the clock a little bit. Hubert Davis was on a lot of heat, back in January and December with the team that was kind of going up and down at North Carolina. They lose to Pittsburgh by 9 points at home, who's lost 21 games this year. And man, the message boards were unkind to Mr. Hubert Davis, who, by the way, was one of the nicest guys that you'll ever meet, is Hubert Davis. So I really felt bad that he was getting that kind of heat, especially not even being on the job for a year yet. But the other guy across the business, Coach K, he had that heat for the first 3 years. He took over the Duke job where they were wanting to get rid of him. So maybe it's kind of just, catching that heat kind of maybe inspires people to do better, be better than what they actually are sometimes. And you have to give both of them credit. Duke loses that heart gut wrenching game at home, the last game Coach K in Cameron Indoor Stadium, to these Tar Heels. And then now you say it again, he's at another Final Four in the last year of his career. And how big would it be to actually go to the final game and beat your crosstown rival, the North Carolina Tar Heels, in the same year? I mean, it's pretty storybook, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. And either way, it's going to be a great story. And I got to admit, I'd like to see Duke in the final. It's just that swan song would be amazing. But hey, the way these games are going, there's no telling what's going to happen.
And kudos to your Texas Tech bunch. I mean, last week, that game last Thursday, I was at a real estate event with my better half, and so I had to roll tape on these games. But this day and age of notifications, it's kind of hard to keep the score away, So
Right.
as my Gonzaga guys were going down at the time, and I steadily had a quick trips over to the nearby bar that was there to soothe my wounds. I became a big Texas Tech fan, and I got more wounds. So I have to admit, I had a big NCAA tournament hangover last Friday, and it wasn't from the alcohol that I had. It was gut wrenching because your Texas Tech boys gave Duke everything they could imagine, and it took a 71% effort from the field in the second half from Duke to win that game against Texas Tech. And, you can't give the job he has done over there in Lubbock enough credit. If he's not one of your national finalists for Coach of the Year, then you're not watching basketball, man. I mean, but phenomenal job.
No, and after what happened,
yes.
Beard leaving, decommitting kids, and him just getting to work, putting this together, and being here, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh my, looky there. A home run by Seiya Suzuki.
He's got a great arm, but yes,
Japanese potential star.
Yeah, he signed for a lot of money. Though.
Yeah, he did.
He signed for a lot of money. And let's go back. I'd like to go back here a little bit. I feel bad for Villanova. I don't know if any team has been more cursed and blessed at the same time for getting an injury before the big games start. I mean, last year, Villanova's best player, he tears his Achilles right before the NCAA tournament starts. Then you get Justice Moore. He tears his Achilles with 35 seconds left in the game, Billy. I mean, you're talking about probably your second best player, Jay Wright. I mean, I'm not a lot of people here in the South talk about him, but Jay Wright is one of the best coaches to ever coached this game on the college level. I mean, he's already won 2 national championships here in the last 6 years, and he probably gets more from less each year on a high level, and he gets those kids that are high level to play at a high level, which is kind of hard sometimes. They even get better. He's the kind of guy that you see guys getting better in the program. And his players don't generally leave after 1 or the second year. They stay around 3 to 4 years. So I think that does give him an upper hand. But man, you got to feel bad now when you're going into that game against Kansas, where you're really undermanned now a little bit going into that game. And Kansas has played extremely well here in the last 6 weeks or so.
Well, okay, and then look at this stat. In their last 5 against Kansas, Villanova is 5-0. So I mean,
that's a great stat.
Yeah,
it's a great stat. That's a great stat.
Because the odds are against them, or they own them, and regardless of who's hurt, they got them. Wow.
Well, I'm thinking that Kansas, Kansas is back. This is Bill Self's 4th Final Four since he's been there. Obviously, Roy Williams took Kansas there, I believe, twice, Final Four. I mean, Kansas is one of the blue bloods. But if you look at this Final Four, CBS has got to be just elated seeing 4 blue blood basketball programs lacing it up in the Big Easy, nonetheless, this weekend. The ratings going to go through the roof for that North Carolina Duke game, obviously, just because of Coach K and because that's one of the bitterest rivals that you'll ever know between those 2 teams. But Kansas and Villanova, I mean, they've got a bunch of pedigree there also. So, I mean, either way you look at it, CBS has got to be happy knowing that their national championship game on Monday doesn't have to compete against baseball. They're going to have a pretty high number come next Monday for sure.
Wow.
And I also think that it's, and for me, I know that Duke is a 4.5 point favorite over North Carolina. I think for North Carolina, they weren't expected to be in the Final Four. You know, there were some aspirations that Duke could get to the Final Four, obviously being a number 2 seed. North Carolina's playing with house money. So they could kind of play the same way they did at Cameron the last time, because there was no pressure on North Carolina when they went into Cameron at the end of the regular season. All that pressure was clearly on Duke and Duke's players and Coach K and out over that being the last game. This time around, they kind of could play with a little bit of that house money again, can't they?
Oh, absolutely. Why not? I mean, come on.
I think so.
It's kind of like every coach should look at the tournament like this. They don't get paid any extra for the extra work, right? So go out, have fun, let the guys do their thing, and enjoy it. You know, it's what it's all about.
And there's worse cities to enjoy than the Big Easy. You know, so I mean, I would think,
no doubt.
I think that if you won on Saturday night, it's going to be really hard to keep your players from really enjoying the Big Easy on Saturday night. But yeah, I mean, I think,
you know, it's not quite the same post Katrina, though. I mean,
no,
I gotta admit,
and well, it definitely, one thing that would be different though this time around, I do believe you don't have to show you still have to show a vaccination card to get into some places still on the Strip. I know that's the way this past December, and I had a friend that was there in February, and that was still the case then. Now I know that the CD, you know, I know that they've laxed some rules, the mask rules and things of that nature, but I know that New Orleans was wanting to make sure that they don't have another spike, knowing that the summer's coming up and their big prime tourist season was coming up, and they want to make sure that that's, you know, I guess as clean as it possibly can be, if Bourbon Street's ever clean. You know? Yeah.
turn the gloves up there. Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it's the Duke Invitational. I think now that, you know, Duke kind of grew up in the Michigan State game. They definitely grew up in the Texas Tech game. You know, being able to fight off, you know, it looked like, you know, a very good opponent in both cases there, coming from behind in both cases there to win that game. No, I do think that it would be Duke and Kansas in the finals. And for me, I do think that Coach K will be cutting down the nets again for the very last time as a Duke head coach. I know he's going to still be on the ledger at Duke after this. So if Duke ever wins it again, I guess he'll probably be some part of that, but he'll definitely be in the very big background of that on the administrative side. But yeah, I mean, if you would have asked people a month ago if you thought Duke was going to win it all, I think people would have kind of said, I don't think so. But now they're the odds-on favorite to win it all, and you have to give Coach K a lot of credit for getting those young kids to play as well as they did down the stretch, at least, you know, in clutch time.
Yeah, you know, think about that too as a player, because you know they're always having issues with their coach for one reason or another.
Right.
But in that moment, looking at that dude, knowing the hides on the wall that he has, you know, you're going to trust that guy, right? Yeah, exactly. You're going to trust that guy. And we saw it against my Red Raiders. For them to do what they did against that kind of defense.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'll put Tech's defense against anyone in the country. And
I don't think there's an argument that they're the best defensive team in the country. I don't even think there's a close second. I mean, I really don't. I really don't think. I really don't. And I mean, that's just an honest opinion there. Tech gets after you defensively, and for you to shoot 71% contested shots. I mean, it wasn't like you were swinging the ball around and they were open. They were contested shots they knocked down. Dude, that's huge. That was a huge statement game there because Tech. Okay, somebody said this, and I think this is right. Maybe you'll believe with me on this. Tech didn't lose that game. Duke won it. There's a lot of situations.
I was not angry. After it was over, I did this. I bowed my head to Coach K and the freaking Duke boys because it was, wow, that was special.
It's Tommy Lasorda in 1977 where he just tips the hat from the last time that Reggie Jackson hits a home run. I mean, there's just sometimes it's just not in the works for you to win it, and it takes a Herculean effort to get over that hump. And that's really, I mean, not to minimize it, but that's really what it almost was. Because I mean, to shoot 71% from the field, that's unheard of, on any level. And then they went from the free throw line. I think they shot 83% from the free throw line in the second half. And you still only lost by what, 4? Yeah. There's the man. Billy.
That's the World Series trophy right there.
That's a beauty.
And look at Tommy.
Bowie Coon.
Nice.
Yes, sir. I will say that, in looking back in hindsight in the tournament, Billy, we kind of talked a little bit off camera. I probably did not take in the fact that you had the 5th and the 6th-year senior playing in a lot of teams this year. You had 24-year-old men playing against 18-year-olds this year. And the 18-year-old phenom may be a better basketball. I mean, athletically, he may be better than that 24-year-old, but that 24-year-old is a better basketball player because of his experience the last 5 and 6 years. And I think that's another reason why we had a lot of upsets this year, because the teams that kept their guys around for 4 and 5 years were pretty dang on tough out in this tournament. And the teams that had a whole lot of youth or just one person, they got beat because of it. And you look at St. Peter's. I mean, they had a lot of 5 and they had some 5 and 6 year. The transfer portal was very good to Texas Tech. Think about all the guys that came over there and had a wealth of experience. North Carolina, Brady Manick has played 4 years of college basketball. He comes over from Oklahoma as a graduate assistant, as a grad transfer in his 5th year. I mean, so you're talking about guys that had big contributions that had a wealth of experience as well. And I think that's played a big factor in a lot of these upsets this year from the little guy over the bigger guy.
I do, and I don't. But in basketball, I think it is certainly more prevalent.
Yeah.
I think it's hurt baseball teams. I've seen it. Mm-hmm. I watched it at the junior college level firsthand last year. There were 2 teams in my area, McLennan Community College, who stayed with the typical junior college method and kept with the young guys. Mm-hmm. I watched Grayson County, which they went with the older players. They had guys who left Texas A&M and bigger programs to come play there. And they literally had a 23-year-old third baseman, a 24-year-old first baseman playing junior college baseball. And I watched those 2 teams play each other in the first couple weeks of the season, and the older guys gave them a drumming. A month later, I see those same 2 teams play against each other, and the youngsters put it on it. Then I start hearing more and more because I had players I was advising on each team. And sadly, the older players started becoming toxic in the dugout because they start to see the writing on the wall that I'm not getting drafted. My days are over. And when guys are going down like that, they want to take guys down with them. And it was neat. That McLennan team that looked bad against the old guys the first time of the year, ended up winning the national championship, and so it was a neat dichotomy to see. But I think in basketball, you probably don't have that problem as much because there are fewer guys. You're out on the floor. You're playing in front of that big crowd, the excitement, the NBA stuff. You probably always feel like, you know what? I'm a game away. The more notoriety I get, the bigger the stage I play on, the more I show them, the more I still have a chance. Whereas in baseball, the scouts that are at the games, when they're never talking to you, you realize, oh, my days are done.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as toxic in basketball, but I do think it is in other sports.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point because it's no bigger stage the last 2.5 weeks of college basketball for those guys. So I mean, there's been a lot of money made and a lot of money lost during the NCAA tournament because the bright lights are on, the big arenas are there, and who steps up and who doesn't. So I think you do make a good point because I think it's easier for maybe 1 or 2 basketball players on a basketball team to stick around. But if you had a baseball team, you can't have 7 or 8, guys sticking around. Stunts the growth of the team too, at that point in time, because, well, this more than me. You're not recruiting in your high school. You're not recruiting the usual amount of high school kids to come into your program because you have less scholarship offers to offer to them. So that kind of squeezed the high school kid here the last couple of years because there's limited scholarships at that level. And then you had the reduction in the draft, in the last couple of years too. So, I mean, better than me, you got a pot of a whole lot of decent players that had no place to go.
No, absolutely. It's funny how easy some decisions look from one angle, and then when you're in the middle of them, because that coach at Grayson, I watched him just start. He was literally kicking guys off his team on a regular basis. Wow. He'd hear a guy say something or do something in the dugout, say, "You pack your stuff, get out of here." Well, guy might have been his starting third baseman, and he didn't care. He started to realize what was going on. But this is that time of year. It's hard not to be excited about this stuff.
And you bring in the other element, the NIL now that's out there and available now too. That's the other dynamic that, we haven't really gotten our hands around it to kind of harpoon this thing. But I read an article the other day about my beloved buddy, Drew Timme. They said that he can make more money if he comes back to his senior year at Gonzaga from the NIL money than he would be as a second-round draft pick in the NBA. And, when you think about it, NBA's second round is not guaranteed money. It could be that way. It really could. I mean, let's just say this. It's something that 2 years ago you never thought of. Now you actually have that in your little syllabus when you're trying to make a decision on if you should go pro or not. It's a dynamic that I just never envisioned that it would be this big, and I never envisioned that you would have that on top of the free transfer. The free transfer every year. You're getting recruiting done now, all over again, albeit you're not supposed to be recruiting during the season, players, but they are. I mean, it's almost now we're just legalizing what all the dirty stuff we used to do for the last 115 years of just giving players money under the table.
Absolutely.
So it's
think of the hypocrisy of it. Okay, as an agent, an advisor, because that's the term I have to use when it is involved with, amateur athlete. A college player can't have an agent, but he can have an advisor. It's the stupidest rule. They witch hunt us. Does your advisor speak to teams on your behalf? If the player says yes, he can lose his scholarship.
Yep.
He can lose his academic eligibility. I mean, it's a joke, but yet they'll let some guy start throwing them money that where they're considering not taking a draft pick to go to the NBA, or it's a joke to me right now. It's just like, are you kidding me? I've never had a rule violation in over 2 decades.
Right.
And I don't want to, because I don't want my guy to sign unless it's perfect, unless it's the right moment, because come on, most of them aren't ready. Most of them need more seasoning, whether it's physically, mentally. They're little boys. They need to grow up. And college is great for that.
And you know Billy better than I do. Even all these high school players that do sign into pros, I mean, how many of them actually get to the big show? I mean, you know, every year we go through this scenario where, yes, this is the guy 5 years from now could be the cornerstone of your pitching staff. You know, here's the guy that's going to be, you forget Derek Jeter. And I mean, you look up and you go, huh, how many first round picks? Okay, for our local team, how many first round guys in the last 10 years, first pick in the draft for the Rangers, have played for the Rangers? Not many.
Well, here's the odds. Only 50% of first round baseball players make it to the major leagues. That doesn't mean they stick.
Yeah.
That means they get there.
Cup of coffee at least.
Okay, that's the first round where they're millionaires instantly, right? Of the draft, on a whole, only 15 or less than 15% make it for that cup of coffee. Less than 9% has a 4-year career.
Wow. Yeah.
So that shows you how hard it is. But you know, I don't know, this NIL thing's going to get really crazy, I think, as we move forward. And it's just the rich getting richer. It's just going to help the big programs,
yeah,
or the program who has the biggest boosters.
Yeah, you're going to have a separation that's even more of a separation than you're getting now. You know, the analogy that I always read this: the Super Bowl champion gets the last pick in the draft. The NBA champion gets the last pick in the draft. When Alabama or Georgia wins the national championship, they get the number 1 recruiting class. You know, they get the number 2 recruiting class that year. So you keep doing that, and that's the reason why you see a separation between this, and then you go get big bad deep pockets guy that says, all right, for every offensive lineman that signs with the University of Texas, his NIL deal is already $50,000 before he even graces the campus in a University of Texas uniform. And you can't stop that? I mean, it's going to get a lot now. And I don't want to get political, but I will say this. Congress getting involved in this is only going to make this worse. It's only going to make it worse. I'm not going politically in all this, but man, and you just think about when Congress has gotten involved in baseball over the years, man, what that has done over the years. I just don't know how you're going to be able to, yeah. I don't know how you even it out, because you can't tell a person that got a cap off at a certain amount of income. If you're in this free country that we're in, they can't cap your salary, can they? I mean, if somebody wants to give you $500 million, you take the $500 million. He wants to give you $501 million. Don't you just take it? I mean, I don't know how you can curtail it. I don't know.
All I got to say is, if I were Will Smith, I'd say, keep that politics out your effing mouth. I said, keep that politics out your effing mouth.
Now, I thought you would say I might want to try a backhand instead of an open palm swing, but and there's a situation.
That was okay. When I first saw it, I thought it was a setup, right? I thought, okay, they're being funny. They're trying to get some attention until Will goes ghetto and starts screaming like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, wow, that was real. And and it's funny because there's a part of me that likes that a man would defend his wife in a situation like that, especially when you know the whole story. But at the end of the day, this is a black tie event. The whole world's watching. And come on, Chris Rock didn't mean it like that. He didn't really realize what kind of shot he was taking. How about you yell something first? Like, hey, stop talking about my wife. All right.
Yeah.
And then when the cameras are off, then if you got to slap him.
Right. Take care of that after the event's over. They just meet in the hallway and say, hey, I appreciate what you said about my wife. If you got to go toe to toe, you go toe to toe, but you don't do it in that situation. Right. And you almost look soft by slapping him. Instead of, I'd rather have just pushed him and then you would have known, okay, I'm ticked off. I want to punch your lights out, but I'd rather just push you instead of just slapping him. That's the problem that I had, because it's demeaning to slap like that in the first place. But then for him, the funny thing is, he laughed at the joke. He saw his wife wasn't laughing, and that's when he took that immediate, uh-oh, I shouldn't be laughing at this. And that's when he went rogue, because he was originally laughing like everybody else was. And what if Wanda Sykes would have said that joke? Would Willa Smith gone up there and slapped her?
Yeah, good question, right?
I know that let's just say this. They have a perplexing marriage anyway. Let's just be kind about it. They have liberties in their marriages that a lot of marriages broke up over the years. And so I don't understand why he took the high road on this, situation, as opposed to, let's say guys maybe getting close to his wife. I didn't understand why he took the moral ground on what Chris Rock said, but he's a comedian. These people get made fun of in Hollywood all the time. It's part of you having all the glory and money. You got to be a little more thick-skinned than that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. When you accept that role, that's part of it. I mean, and everybody's open game to a comedian, except the only time I get offended is when it's somebody who's deceased. Yeah. I don't like hearing guys take shots at my father or a Mickey Man or anybody that can't defend themselves.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's one thing. But the sad part about that is,
don't stomp on a dead man's grave is what I call it. Don't ever.
I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I don't think Chris Rock really had a clue why she was bald, why she'd shaved her head. He didn't do the research. And, but once again, come on.
And I like how he apologized when he's accepting his award. Meanwhile, he's tarnished all the people that have gotten the awards at the event because nobody's talking about them. That Monday morning, everybody's talking about the Oscar winners, right? I don't remember anybody talking about the Oscar winners this past Monday. All they were talking about was Will Smith and Chris Rock and Meme Central. Was all that you saw Monday in between them. And so, yes, he took away a moment that, some people will never get again. You can't go get it back. And the apology was so lame, he had to come back, the next day and say 2 apologies basically to Chris Rock. And let me ask you this: when has it become chic to apologize through Instagram? I mean, I mean, is that the new forum now to find apologies now? Is Instagram? I don't. I mean, there's a show called TMZ. You can put a video and send it to TMZ with the apology. I assure you, TMZ will hit more homes than Instagram will. I assure you. I said their website and they're on their channel and being on TV 7 days a week. But not only that, the bottom line is, why did he not apologize to Chris Rock when he basically apologized in his acceptance speech? You know, he should have apologized. He should have included him then. I think it would have felt more, I think it would have been more real at that point in time.
Yep.
I think it was more collected and, collaborated after the fact, 40 something hours later. So, I mean, it loses some of its touch to me.
Oh, well, but you know what? Taking a step back and looking at it, Chris Rock has blown up since that moment. He's right now maybe the hottest celebrity on the planet.
Six sold out shows. 6 sold out shows for Chris Rock since this has happened.
And I can't wait. What's he going to add about this in his shows? I mean, he's got to show that moment over and over again. And
so after you ice the Fresh Prince on your face, you take it all the way to the bank in the next 10 days afterwards. Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, man, guys, we do appreciate you listening to us. We'd love for you guys to subscribe to us on Rumble and YouTube, and I'll hit all of our social media. We're on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. Please, hook us up. Tell us what you like, what you don't, what you dislike about our program. Like I said, my buddies out in Sacramento, I appreciate y'all listening to me and telling me I didn't have a clue about LeBron James. That's another story another day. We got the NBA playoffs coming up, and LeBron James is now probably going to miss the playoffs. This is the way things are going on right now. And he's only won 4 world championships out of being there 10 times. But yeah, he's the best player. I'm sure of it. But that's another story for another day. But man, Billy, I know you got to get, man. I appreciate you hanging in there with me, and we'll be back here next week. Hopefully we'll have Nick Harris on for a few moments. Enjoy the Final Four. It is loaded with talent. Send Coach K off. Either you're a hater like me or a lover like Billy Martin. You're gonna be a stop down for that game on Saturday night with the Tar Heels. Is a instant stop down. Hope we get another instant classic out of it. The tournament has not disappointed at all. Hopefully the next 3 games are going to be just as exciting too. We appreciate you listening to us on Balls and Walt, episode number 28. We will see you guys next week.